Hello, beautiful hearts. Lysa Black here to read to you again from Empath Healer, the 13 Principles of Healing Presence. I've never read my book all the way through before, so let's do it. We are at Chapter 2, Perceiving Pain or Sensing Truth. This is a really, really big cookie for us as empaths. Here's the quote to start the chapter. We prefer to feel their feelings over our own. Because so few people were able to stay with us in our true emotions, there is a residual stigma attached to feeling what is within us because we were often left alone and unaided in those moments. Empaths are capable of discerning the emotions within others, not just how they are currently feeling and thinking, but also the emotional pain emanating from the pivotal events in their past. So many people are actually betrayed, hurt, or abandoned in moments that others may not even register or recognize as difficult. This repeated exposure to the myriad forms of suffering can validate empaths and help us to become sensitive and compassionate to the subtle and personal ways that pain comes to us all. All pain offers a form of truth and wisdom that is not yet known to us. Our privileged role as empaths is to witness and offer non-judgment to the point that we can perceive the truth. We cannot witness the truth fully in others until we also receive it from our own suffering. Celine was a witness for so many around her because her compassionate air of acceptance was a welcome refuge to those feeling scared, upset, or in need of reassurance. Her ability to withhold judgment and create a soft space for others to express their true feelings was something Celine was loved for. Being able to perceive what others were feeling through her empath nature meant that facades could drop and a cascade of genuine emotion could flow forward. It was a deep love for others that birthed this desire to offer gentle acceptance to those caught up in their own suffering. But that was only one half of it. The other half of Celine's desire came from her own past of being unheard and unseen as a young girl. As someone who lost a sibling at a young age from a terminal illness, her whole family was so awash with grief and loss that there was simply no room and no one capable of witnessing or assisting with Celine's suffering. Jason was just 2.5 years old when the family received a diagnosis of his condition. The next 3.5 years were a long preparation for his passing. Celine's mother, Kathy, became so fixated on her own impending loss that she was not able to perceive the fear and sadness in her two daughters or help them with their own emotions around their brother's illness. Kathy was understandably determined to give her youngest and only son a series of joy-filled experiences during what remained of his life. Family togetherness, adventures into nature, and abundance of gifts at Christmas were all ways that this family were able to create memories to reflect the lasting importance of Jason's life. As the preciousness of each moment incumbent upon their minds perpetually, the desire for feelings of joy, love, and togetherness became the preferred emotional states when loss, grief, and separation were impending. Our exposure to certain emotional parameters can polarize our experience. The propensity towards seeking joy was heightened, whilst the fear of loss grew even greater. Family moments filled with laughter, giggles, and deep embraces were favored and sought after, while any disclosure or admission of sadness was discouraged. It became shameful to feel sad or cry, which led Celine to believe that her true feelings were a shameful burden, which should be hidden and kept down out of public sight. For an empath, it's important to recognize that it's our own personal suffering that develops our ability to translate and witness others first. Initially, it's the preference to feel what others are feeling emotionally that beckons us into the emotional inner world of friends, family members, or strangers. We prefer to feel their feelings over our own because so few people were able to stay with us in our own true feelings. There is a residual stigma attached to acknowledging what is within us because we were often left alone and unaided in this moment. This births the desire to never leave another to endure the same fate. Celine sought me out as a mentor to assist when the overwhelming burden of her own experience became greater than she could bear. Anxiety and depression were extending beyond the confines of her comfort, and Celine sought someone who had likewise endured childhood difficulties who could support her to find the healing power of compassionate presence. In one appointment, we both felt led to give our full love and attention to the many times when Celine had cried alone. Being able to stand by her and to witness the depth of loneliness and all of the shame that had been pushed down was immense. Having the presence of another human being allowed Celine to experience her grief and sadness in a way that permitted her to follow the depth of it until it passed. An empath like Celine will have a backdrop of emotional complexity residing within her that will find its equal counterpart in another externally. As unlikely as it seems, eventually we will receive into close proximity someone who reflects our particular resonance of emotional pain. For the first time, our motivation to witness and feel the pain within another collides with a relived experience of our own suppressed emotion surging to the surface seeking cathartic release. For an empath, that is when the barrier between ourselves and the world crashes down in alarming splendor. The illusion that we are separate and insignificant is washed away as we witness our own pain appear before us, mirrored in the experience of another. The truth is that the undefined and unacknowledged terrain of our suffering seeks acknowledgement. It cares not for the focal point of where you choose to invest your compassion, because ultimately all pathways converge to the same blessed outcome. As our companions can bask in our ability to witness their trauma in love without flinching, they are supported through the assistance of our brave presence to unpack their most horrifying moments and recognize that they are not as unbearable and unendurable as they had once presumed. The more exposed and experienced we become in extending compassionate healing presence, the more we are able to witness the cathartic release and feel our companions' relief and return to peace. The more prepared we are to allow ourselves to be pulled through the same experience, the more we can simultaneously transform our own trauma, often with an ease that defies our comprehension. Over a year later, a series of events unfolded which brought forward an obscure cousin who'd been secretly adopted out of the family. As they reconnected, Celine realized that this long cousin shared some very similar experiences to her own. They both felt as though they'd never fitted into their birth family. Celine relished the chance to commune with her cousin and explore the similarities between their life paths. Graham was 15 years older than Celine and was just as sensitive and aware of his emotions as she was. They instantly connected and began to relay details of their individual experiences together. Celine was able to explain how it was hard for her to lose a younger sibling, and Graham was able to relate how sad and alone he felt as an outsider, always knowing that he was adopted. Graham felt a sense of shame and fear, worrying that he might be discovered crying and grieving for his birth family. Even though these family members were now meeting for the first time following completely different family upbringings and conditions, it struck them both simultaneously how truly alone they had both felt. They shared the same sense of shame around the depths of sadness that erupted from their hearts whenever they were alone. Celine and Graham were able to hold each other in so much compassion that they both felt truly witnessed and seen. The love that generously poured in from one another somehow flowed simultaneously through to touch both of their hearts and eliminate any sense of shame that had been residing there. Of course, they could both see how natural and normal deep feelings of sadness were given the circumstances of their lives. Our healing presence emanates from a willingness to hold ourselves in compassion as we recognize that our original goal to witness and acknowledge the suffering of others is at war with another prior commitment to ignore our most painful moments of emotional suffering. This is a divinely orchestrated paradox, and the exposure to this impasse will surface again and again until we're sufficiently trusting of grace to allow ourselves to surrender and enter into a new perception. There are two paths you can choose. We can hold ourselves in compassion and permit others to witness our own suffering in the reflected presence of another, or we can witness the reflected suffering of another and likewise receive the same brave acknowledgement we wish to extend. Ultimately, I believe our ability to sense and feel the pain in others is a way of preparing us to someday return to witness our own unacknowledged pain so that it can be freed. We need to remove the false perception that anything that can exist in the emotional realm cannot be felt and transmuted with love. The more experienced we are in offering compassionate presence, the more prepared we are to be witnessed by others. As our experience of giving and receiving compassionate, healing presence expands, so too does our ability to sense and know our truth. No matter what we have endured, our pain can burrow a desire to love others so deeply into our hearts that it becomes the same passageway to our own liberation. Our willingness to love others becomes the gateway to feeling and knowing we too are loved. What a joy to be able to share the second chapter of my book. I'm showing up repeatedly over the next 6 weeks to really read my book to you and hope that it makes it even easier for you to receive these words into your heart. I know that compassionate healing presence is the truest potential and purpose of being an empath, that being who we are in the world, even though we have suffered so much, gives us a powerful lens and conduit wherewith we can channel potent healing love to ourselves and everyone else around us. I would love to hear what you think of this chapter. Are these stories resonating with you? If you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Lysa Black. I'm an intuitive empath, business mentor, and I'm here to guide people deeper into their truth so we can rise on purpose. If you enjoyed this, I'd love it if you could give it a big thumbs up. It would be amazing if this chapter can reach the hearts of those who are struggling with their empath gift. I want those who are suffering now to know that this need not always be our experience, that we can go beyond and create a life of peace and love. As I have, this is my wish for all of us. So much love and care to all of you.